The wildest part about dealing with entitled people is how they somehow convince themselves that your patience is unlimited, and trust me, that realization hit me hard the moment my neighbor turned my own driveway into some weird personal power game. My name is Ethan Mercer, and for almost 5 straight months, an HOA board member on my street treated my property line like a suggestion while blocking access to my driveway so casually that it honestly felt deliberate. At first, it sounded too ridiculous to even become a real problem, like one of those neighborhood annoyances you laugh about once and forget, except this one kept escalating until it started costing me time, money, stress, and sleep. Bro, hearing stories about petty neighborhood drama is one thing, but living inside one slowly changes your entire mood. And the craziest part? She genuinely thought nobody could stop her, right up until one perfectly legal decision changed everything. Everything started so small that, looking back, I almost hate how reasonable I tried to be. I had only been living in the neighborhood for about 8 months after buying my first house, and honestly, I was trying hard to avoid becoming that guy who immediately starts drama with neighbors. The area looked perfect on paper: quiet sidewalks, clean lawns, families walking dogs in the evenings, the kind of suburban setup people dream about when they imagine stability. The HOA looked annoying but manageable, at least from a distance. That illusion lasted until I met Vanessa Holloway, one of the loudest personalities in the neighborhood and, unfortunately for everyone around her, an HOA board member who carried herself like she personally owned the street. You know the type, the person who acts overly friendly while somehow making every conversation feel like a warning. That's exactly how people act in real life when tiny authority goes straight to their head. The first time it happened, I genuinely thought it was an accident. I came home from work around 6 in the evening and found a white SUV sitting halfway across the entrance to my driveway, angled just enough to make getting in impossible without climbing the curb. At first, I figured somebody had stopped briefly or maybe delivery drivers had mixed something up. Mild inconvenience, nothing dramatic. I parked on the street and waited 20 minutes. Then 30. Then nearly an hour. Eventually Vanessa came walking across the sidewalk carrying grocery bags like absolutely nothing was wrong. No urgency. No embarrassment. No apology energy whatsoever. She simply unlocked the SUV, glanced toward me, and casually waved before moving it. I told myself to stay calm. New neighborhood. No need to escalate. So I approached politely and explained that I needed driveway access after work and asked if she could avoid parking there in the future. She smiled in that strange overly pleasant way people do when they are silently dismissing everything you say. She blamed temporary unloading, neighborhood parking issues, and promised it would not happen again. Fair enough, right? Problem solved. Except it absolutely was not. 3 days later it happened again. Same SUV. Same angle. Same impossible driveway access. This time I knocked on her door because I had groceries melting in the back seat and nowhere to park nearby. Nobody answered for 15 minutes despite lights being on inside. When Vanessa finally appeared, she acted irritated, like I had interrupted something important. Instead of apologizing, she immediately shifted blame, saying technically she was only partially blocking the entrance and implying I could probably squeeze around if I tried harder. Bro, hearing someone explain why your own driveway somehow wasn't yours anymore actually blew my mind. I documented it mentally and moved on because, again, I didn't want neighborhood conflict. But then it turned into a pattern. Every week became multiple incidents. Sometimes mornings. Sometimes evenings. Sometimes entire weekends where guests could not park because access stayed blocked for hours. Packages became annoying to unload. Leaving for work turned into guesswork. Coming home became stressful because I never knew whether I'd actually be able to use my own property. The weirdest part? It always felt intentional, almost strategic. Her driveway sat mostly empty while her SUV somehow kept ending up near mine. After about the 7th incident, I decided to approach things professionally. I sent polite HOA emails documenting dates and times. I took photos. I explained that access obstruction was becoming consistent and disruptive. And this is where things started feeling genuinely bizarre because every single complaint somehow vanished into silence. No acknowledgement. No response. No correction. Weeks passed. Nothing changed. Then I learned something that made my stomach drop a little. Vanessa was not just part of the HOA board, she handled neighborhood compliance complaints herself. Suddenly everything made sense. Every ignored message. Every delayed response. Every fake smile. Every casual driveway blockage. This part was unbelievable because once I realized she was filtering complaints, the entire situation stopped feeling careless and started feeling personal. And somehow, despite all that, things were still about to get dramatically worse. Once I understood Vanessa had direct influence over HOA complaints, the whole situation shifted from irritating to genuinely exhausting. Suddenly, every blocked driveway incident felt less like bad parking and more like a message. And trust me, when somebody starts making your daily routine stressful on purpose, it changes the way you think about coming home. For I began noticing patterns that were impossible to ignore. The SUV would magically appear during the exact windows when I needed to leave for work or return after long shifts, almost like clockwork. Some mornings I had to leave my car parked awkwardly down the street and walk farther than necessary while juggling bags, work equipment, or groceries. Small frustrations stack up fast, and that's something people underestimate until they are living through it. Then came the part that honestly made my jaw drop. One weekend, after another blocked entrance situation, I found a warning notice taped to my front door about improper trash bin visibility from the HOA. Seriously? Meanwhile, the same person making life difficult somehow had time to nitpick garbage bins. That level of entitlement felt unreal. I genuinely could not believe someone would weaponize neighborhood rules while actively ignoring a problem they were causing themselves. And unfortunately, this petty power game was getting dangerously close to backfiring. After months of photos, timestamps, ignored emails, and unnecessary stress, I finally stopped reacting emotionally and started thinking strategically. Here is the thing people forget: rules work both ways. One evening, after getting home late from work, I turned onto my street and immediately felt my patience disappear. Vanessa's SUV sat fully across my driveway entrance, worse than ever before, making access impossible. Not halfway. Not accidental looking. Completely blocked. And this time, something clicked in my brain. I checked local parking regulations, reviewed HOA documents I had saved, and realized something important: blocking private driveway access was an enforceable towing violation. Completely legal. Fully documented. So instead of knocking on her door again, instead of arguing or begging for basic respect, I made one calm phone call. 5 Bro, this part genuinely felt unreal because for the first time in months, I stopped playing defense. And about 30 minutes later, flashing lights slowly rolled into the neighborhood. The moment the tow truck hooked Vanessa's SUV, the entire mood of the neighborhood shifted. Curtains moved. Porch lights flicked on. People suddenly became very interested in what was happening outside. And honestly, after months of feeling powerless, watching everything unfold felt surreal. About 20 minutes later, Vanessa came rushing outside looking completely stunned, clearly expecting someone to stop the process or bend the rules for her. Instead, she was met with photos, timestamps, parking regulations, and one very simple explanation: blocking driveway access violated local enforcement rules. No drama. No yelling. Just consequences. The strangest part was how quickly the confidence disappeared. Within days, the driveway issue completely stopped. No more strategic parking. No more passive-aggressive energy. Even the random HOA notices suddenly disappeared. Funny how fast people rediscover professionalism when accountability shows up. That's exactly how entitlement works in real life. It survives right up until consequences arrive and quietly change the entire game. Looking back, This whole thing honestly reminded me how some people mistake patience for weakness until reality checks them hard. The crazy part? Everything changed the second consequences became unavoidable. Have you ever dealt with an entitled neighbor like this? Drop your wildest story below and hit subscribe for more unbelievable drama.